You know that feeling when you're facing just like a mountain of information about something that really, truly matters to you. You've got articles, maybe some research printouts, notes everywhere. And all you really want is just the clearest insights, that shortcut to really getting it, especially when it affects someone you love. If that sounds familiar, well, you're definitely in the right place today. Today, we're doing a deep dive into what's essentially a comprehensive ADHD parent guide. Our mission isn't just to summarize, it's more like um, extracting the most powerful nuggets of knowledge, the real aha moments. It's designed to be your shortcut to feeling confident and clear about this. We've pulled together the research, looked at the most common questions parents ask, and distilled the practical tips and resources. The whole goal is to demystify attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and really equip you with a solid understanding.
Exactly. And that's the value, I think. You're not just getting, the list of facts. We're synthesizing all this information to give you the context, the implications,
Yeah.
really a deeper grasp that'll help you navigate things and support your child.
All right, let's dive in then. A big question right off the bat when parents start noticing things is what is ADHD actually? And crucially, how is it different from just, typical kid energy or behavior?
Right. So ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, it's a neurodevelopmental condition. And that term, neurodevelopmental, is key. It means it's about differences in how the brain develops and functions. It involves these persistent patterns, things like inattention, hyperactivity, maybe impulsivity, or sometimes a combination. Now, what sets it apart from a child just being, energetic or having a tough phase is the consistency, the intensity, and this is really important, the impairment. These behaviors are much more frequent, they're more intense, and they genuinely get in the way of the child's ability to function,
Yeah.
across different settings.
Like school, home.
School, home, with friends, yeah. It's not isolated.
So it's not just a matter of degree, it's really about that functional impact on their life.
Okay, so for parents listening, what are some specific signs, those sort of red flags that might make them think, okay, maybe this is more than just a phase?
Well, you're looking for things like difficulty really sustaining attention on tasks or play, getting easily distracted, often forgetting things, even routine stuff or instructions, maybe talking excessively, lots of fidgeting, feeling restless. That acting without thinking piece, the impulsivity is a big one too. You might also see difficulties with emotional regulation, like big outbursts or significant disorganization, just trouble keeping track of things. And the diagnostic criteria specify that these symptoms, they need to stick around for at least 6 months.
6 months, okay.
And they have to be truly out of line for the child's developmental age. Not typical for a kid that age.
That brings up something really interesting and honestly a common point of confusion. A lot of parents say, but my kid can focus sometimes, like for hours on video games or Legos. How does that hyperfocus fit with an attention deficit? Yes, the hyperfocus paradox. It's a classic, and it really helps bust that myth that kids with ADHD simply can't pay attention. They often can hyperfocus, sometimes incredibly intensely, but typically it's on activities they find highly stimulating or, personally rewarding.
And that's what they want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The challenge isn't a total lack of focus ability. It's more about difficulty regulating that attention, shifting it, sustaining it, especially for tasks that are maybe less interesting, require more mental effort or offer less immediate feedback. It's not about willpower. It really stems from differences in the brain's reward pathways and attention networks. Their brain is kind of seeking out that higher stimulation level.
That explanation makes so much sense. It shifts the perspective from a deficit to like a management challenge. And speaking of brain wiring, another huge question parents grapple with is what causes ADHD? Is it genetics? Is it something they did?
Yeah, that's a heavy one for parents. The science is actually very clear here. ADHD has strong genetic roots. Twin studies, family studies, they consistently show high heritability. It definitely tends to run in families. Now, there can be environmental factors that contribute too. Things like significant prenatal exposure to certain toxins, or maybe very low birth weight, premature birth. But here's the really crucial insights, the one I always want to stress for parents. ADHD is not caused by parenting.
That's so important to hear.
It truly is. You didn't cause this. It's vital to absorb that because guilt and self-blame can be overwhelming otherwise.
Absolutely. Okay, so it's largely biological. Now, once a child is diagnosed, is this something they'll likely outgrow? Does ADHD go away?
That's another common question. While some symptoms, particularly the hyperactivity ones, might lessen or look different as a child gets older, ADHD often does persist into adolescence and even adulthood. Many individuals continue to face challenges with attention, executive functions like planning and organizing, and maybe emotional regulation.
So it changes, maybe, but doesn't just disappear.
Right. But what also changes is their ability to manage it. People learn strategies, they find workarounds. And that's why early and consistent support is so incredibly key. It helps them develop those coping skills and really improves long-term outcomes.
Okay, so it's often persistent, which really highlights why getting that early diagnosis and support is so important. Now, once parents see enough signs to be concerned, that big question is what next? And usually that means looking into the diagnostic process. What does that actually involve? Is it like one blood test or a quick chat, or is it more complex?
Yeah, it's definitely not a single test. That's a common misconception. Diagnosing ADHD is a thorough, multifaceted process. It typically involves things like detailed clinical interviews, talking with the child, talking with the parents, getting comprehensive behavior checklists filled out by both parents and teachers, because you want to see how the child functions in different environments.
Right, consistency across settings.
Exactly. And often there might be direct observation of the child, maybe in the clinic or even at school if possible. This whole evaluation is done by trained clinicians. That could be a pediatrician with specific training, a child psychologist, or a psychiatrist.
So for a parent listening right now thinking, okay, I suspect this might be ADHD, where should they start? Who's the first call?
Generally, the best starting point is your pediatrician. They can do initial screenings, really listen to your concerns, rule out other potential medical issues, and then, if ADHD seems likely, they can often refer you to a specialist, like a child psychologist or psychiatrist. These specialists are particularly helpful if the symptoms are complex or if you suspect there might be other conditions going on alongside the ADHD, which is actually quite common.
That brings up a fascinating point. You mentioned other conditions mimicking ADHD.
Yes,
Yep.
this is so important. There's a whole range of things that can look like ADHD on the surface. We're talking about anxiety disorders, the effects of trauma, chronic sleep problems, specific learning disabilities like dyslexia, even sensory processing issues.
Wow, okay.
All of these can manifest with symptoms like inattention, restlessness, or impulsivity.
Which makes that comprehensive evaluation absolutely critical, doesn't it? To avoid misdiagnosis or missing something else entirely.
Precisely. You need to peel back the layers. Misdiagnosis can happen, especially if the assessment is too brief or doesn't really dig into the child's full history, their development, the family context, and rule out those mimics. A really thorough, careful evaluation significantly boosts the accuracy and makes sure you're actually targeting the right underlying issues.
Makes sense. And is there a sort of minimum age for an evaluation? How young can kids be diagnosed?
ADHD can be reliably diagnosed as early as age 4, though certainly parents might notice concerning signs even earlier than that.
Cool.
The real benefit of getting a diagnosis relatively early, if it's appropriate, is that it opens the door to early intervention. And we know that early support can make a huge positive difference down the road.
Right. So let's say the diagnosis is confirmed. Parents are then looking at treatment options. Medication often comes up pretty quickly. What's its role?
Medication can be a very effective tool, especially when ADHD symptoms are moderate to severe and significantly impacting the child's functioning. Stimulant medications, like those based on methylphenidate or amphetamine, are the most common. They work by helping to regulate certain neurotransmitters in the brain involved in attention and impulse control.
Okay.
But it's absolutely crucial to understand that medication should always be part of a broader treatment plan, and it needs to be highly individualized. What works wonders for one child might not be the best fit for another.
And of course, parents worry about side effects. What are the common ones they should know about?
That's a very understandable concern. Common side effects can include things like decreased appetite, maybe some trouble falling asleep, sometimes irritability or headaches. The good news is, for most kids, these are manageable. They often lessen over time as the body adjusts, or they can be managed by adjusting the dose or maybe the timing of the medication. The key is open communication with the doctor. Any concerns should be discussed right away.
Definitely. But medication isn't the only path, right? This raises that important question. Are there effective non-medication options too?
Absolutely. And this is such a key takeaway for parents.
Yes.
There are highly effective non-medication approaches. Behavioral therapy is often considered foundational. This involves teaching the child skills for managing behavior, organization, and emotions. Parent training programs are also huge. Things like PCIT, parent-child interaction therapy, or similar programs teach parents specific strategies to manage behavior effectively and build a positive relationship.
So empowering the parents as well.
Exactly. And then there are school accommodations, which are vital. Plus lifestyle factors, things like establishing consistent routines, ensuring enough sleep, and regular exercise. These can all make a significant difference. Often the most effective treatment is actually a combination approach, maybe medication plus behavioral therapy and parent support.
And how long does treatment usually last? Is it a short-term fix or more ongoing?
It really varies so much from child to child. Some kids might benefit from interventions for a specific period, maybe during a tough school transition. Others might need ongoing support, perhaps adjusting as they grow, well into adolescence or even adulthood. The key is regular reassessment, checking in with the doctor, the therapist, the school team to make sure the plan is still working and still appropriate for the child's current needs.
What about things like diet or supplements? Does nutrition play a role?
Well, exercise is definitely beneficial. Research strongly supports that regular physical activity can improve focus, reduce impulsivity, and boost mood in kids with ADHD. So getting them moving is always a good idea.
Okay.
With diet, while a generally healthy, balanced diet is good for everyone's brain health, the evidence for specific restrictive diets, like eliminating sugar or certain food dyes, to treat ADHD is pretty limited or inconsistent. Some supplements, like omega-3 fatty acids, have shown some small, modest benefits for some children in some studies, but they certainly aren't a replacement for established treatments like therapy or medication if needed. It's more of a potential adjunct.
Got it. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about school. How does ADHD typically impact a child's experience in the classroom?
School can be a real challenge. ADHD can significantly affect a child's ability to stay focused during lessons, organize their materials and assignments, actually complete tasks, especially multi-step ones. And sometimes behavior in that structured classroom setting can be difficult too. Without the right support and accommodations, these difficulties can unfortunately lead to academic struggles, a lot of frustration for the child, and sometimes social challenges as well.
But there is support available, right? I know parents hear terms like 504 plan or IEP thrown around.
Yes, absolutely. Kids with ADHD can get formal support at school. They might be eligible for services under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, or if their ADHD significantly impacts their learning and they meet specific criteria, they might qualify for an individualized education program, an IEP.
Okay, can you break those down for us? 504 versus IEP, what's the difference?
Sure. Think of it this way. A Section 504 plan is generally about providing accommodations to level the playing field. So things like getting extra time on tests, being allowed movement breaks, maybe preferential seating near the teacher, or getting notes provided. It's for kids with disabilities who don't necessarily need specialized instruction.
Got it. Access and accommodation.
Exactly. An IEP, on the other hand, is part of special education law, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. It's for students whose disability significantly impacts their educational performance to the point where they need specialized instruction and related services, like maybe speech therapy or occupational therapy. IEPs include specific, measurable annual goals, and the eligibility criteria are generally stricter than for a 504.
That's a really helpful distinction. Beyond those formal plans, what about just general classroom strategies? What helps?
Oh, lots of things can make a big difference day to day. Visual schedules, so kids can see what's coming next. Breaking down instructions into clear, simple steps. Building in planned movement breaks or brain breaks. Using positive reinforcement consistently, catching them being good. And even simple things like strategic seating, maybe away from distractions or closer to the teacher for cues, can be really effective.
And how should parents approach talking to teachers about this? It feels like that partnership is so crucial.
It's absolutely vital. The key is collaboration. Go in ready to share specific observations, what challenges you see, but also, really importantly, what your child's strengths and interests are. Ask the teacher what they're seeing in the classroom. Share strategies that work well at home. Maybe suggest trying some specific classroom supports. And agree on a regular communication method, whether it's quick emails, a shared notebook, whatever works, just to keep that dialogue open and stay on the same page. It really needs to be a team effort.
Building that team. Okay. Now let's talk about home life. Behavior and emotions. Why do kids with ADHD often seem to struggle so much with managing their emotions? Those big reactions to seemingly small things.
Yeah, emotional regulation is a really common challenge. Their brains might genuinely react more intensely to frustration, to disappointment, to perceived criticism or failure. It's often not a deliberate choice to overreact. It's part of the underlying neurology. Their emotional thermostat might be set a bit differently, or they have more trouble modulating the response. A key strategy for parents is, first, to teach explicit coping skills when things are calm, deep breathing, taking space, using words. And second, when emotions are running high, try to provide that calm space for them to cool down rather than immediately jumping in with logic or consequences while they're still escalated.
Right. Trying to reason with them in the heat of the moment rarely works.
Rarely. And when it comes to managing impulsive behavior, consistency is just king. Having predictable routines helps create structure and reduces opportunities for impulsivity. Modeling self-control yourself is powerful, and explicitly teaching simple stop and think steps can, over time, help them build that pause button. It's also really crucial to lean heavily on positive reinforcement. Catching them making good choices, praising effort, rewarding positive behavior that tends to be much more effective in the long run for shaping behavior than relying solely on punishment.
So what do those effective, positive discipline strategies look like in practice?
Well, setting really clear, simple, and predictable expectations is key. Using natural and logical consequences when rules are broken, meaning the consequence is directly related to the behavior.
Okay.
Offering lots of specific praise for effort, for trying, for making good choices, not just for perfect outcomes. And maintaining those structured routines we talked about. It's generally best to avoid harsh, overly punitive, or shaming punishments. Those can often backfire, leading to more defiance or damaging the child's self-esteem.
And speaking of self-esteem, that can take a real hit for kids with ADHD, can it? They often get a lot of correction. How can parents actively nurture it?
That's so true. They often hear no, stop, don't pay attention, far more than other kids. So parents need to be intentional about counterbalancing that. Focus relentlessly on their strengths. What are they good at? What do they love? Celebrate their effort and progress, not just perfection. Create opportunities for them to succeed and feel competent in areas that align with their interests, whether it's art, sports, music, whatever. That positive feedback loop is vital.
And what about teaching them skills to handle those inevitable moments of frustration or anxiety?
It's about practice, really. When things are calm, practice simple calming techniques together, taking deep belly breaths, counting slowly, maybe simple mindfulness exercises like noticing sounds around them. Help them learn basic problem-solving steps for when they feel stuck or frustrated. Break it down. What's the problem? What are some options? What can we try? And maybe most importantly, model how you handle your own frustration or stress calmly. Kids learn so much from watching us.
That modeling piece is huge. Okay, let's broaden out a bit to the overall home environment. How important are routines, and what's the best way to structure them?
Routines are incredibly important. For kids with ADHD, predictability helps reduce anxiety and cognitive load. They don't have to constantly figure out what's next. Visual schedules can be fantastic charts with pictures or words showing the steps from morning routines, homework time, bedtime routines. Using timers can also help with transitions, giving a concrete signal for when it's time to switch activities. Consistency is the magic word here.
Consistency, got it. What about screen time? Always a hot topic. Any special considerations for kids with ADHD?
Yes, definitely. While screens aren't the cause of ADHD, the ADHD brain can be particularly sensitive to the constant stimulation and instant gratification they provide. This can sometimes make it harder for them to engage in less stimulating activities, and excessive screen time can interfere with sleep, mood, and attention. So it's generally wise to stick closely to expert guidelines, like those from the American Academy of Pediatrics, maybe around an hour max for younger kids, and clear, structured limits for older ones. And ensuring screens are off well before bedtime is critical for sleep.
Makes sense. How about managing sibling conflict? That can be tough in any family, but maybe especially when ADHD is in the mix.
It absolutely adds a layer of complexity. Impulsivity or emotional reactivity from the child with ADHD can sometimes spark conflict. Key strategies include explicitly teaching empathy to all the children, helping them understand each other's feelings and perspectives. Making a real effort to provide fair, though not always perfectly equal, attention and validation to each child. Using family meetings can be helpful too, creating a space to talk about fairness, family rules, and solve problems together. And don't forget to support the siblings emotionally. It can be challenging for them too.
That's a great point about supporting the siblings. And connecting this all back, what about the parents' well-being? It sounds exhausting.
It really can be. And taking care of your own mental and emotional health isn't selfish. It's absolutely essential. You truly can't pour from an empty cup. It means recognizing your own limits, scheduling breaks for yourself, even short ones, asking for help from your partner, family, or friends. Don't try to do it all alone. And actively seeking connection with other parents who get it can make a world of difference.
So where can parents find that kind of community or support?
There are some great organizations out there. CHGD Children and Adults with Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder has local chapters and online resources. There are often local parent support groups, sometimes run through schools or community centers. Online communities and moderated Facebook groups can offer connection and practical tips too, and sometimes therapy specifically for parents to develop coping strategies and manage stress can be incredibly helpful.
Okay, let's look down the road a bit. What's the long-term outlook generally like for kids diagnosed with ADHD? Does it impact future relationships or careers?
It can, certainly. The challenges with executive function, emotional regulation, or social skills can sometimes carry into adulthood and affect relationships or work. But, and this is a big but, with the right support, self-awareness, and strategies, many individuals with ADHD lead very successful and fulfilling lives. They often thrive in careers that play to their strengths. Maybe fields needing creativity, high energy, problem solving, or that intense focus they can have for passions. Developing those self-management skills and emotional intelligence is really key for navigating adult life successfully.
What about the teenage years specifically? That seems like a perfect storm of hormones, independence, and existing ADHD challenges.
The teen years definitely bring unique challenges. There's increased academic pressure, more complex social dynamics, and often a natural pull towards more independence and sometimes risk-taking behaviors. For parents, it's about finding that tricky balance, staying involved and providing structure, but also fostering their teens' growing autonomy. Keeping communication lines open even when it's difficult is crucial, and continuing to support them in managing their ADHD symptoms as the demands change. It really is, like you said, a dance.
A dance, yeah. So we talked about persistence. Does ADHD ever just resolve completely? And conversely, what are the real risks if it goes untreated or unsupported?
As we discussed, while symptoms might lessen or change, for most people, ADHD is a lifelong condition. They learn to manage it, often very well, but the underlying neurological differences remain. However, people develop amazing coping strategies over time, significantly improving their quality of life. The risks of untreated ADHD, though, are serious and well documented. We're talking about higher rates of academic failure, dropping out of school, chronic low self-esteem, increased risk for substance use disorders, difficulties holding down jobs, relationship problems, and higher rates of co-occurring mental health conditions like anxiety and depression.
Wow.
So that really underscores why getting that diagnosis and consistent support isn't just about managing symptoms day to day, it's about preventing these potentially serious long-term negative outcomes. It sets them on a much better path.
So what are the key strategies for long-term success? What should parents focus on?
Continue to be their advocate, ensuring they get the support they need at school, work, wherever. Keep actively working on building those executive function skills, organization, planning, time management. Relentlessly nurture their self-esteem. Focus on their strengths, celebrate their uniqueness, help them find their niche, and empower them with self-awareness about their ADHD and the strategies that work best for them.
And there you have it. We've just journeyed through some really comprehensive insights on ADHD. Think of it as that shortcut to feeling more informed, more confident, because this understanding really empowers you not just to manage the challenges, but to truly support and advocate for your child, helping them build resilience and ultimately thrive. And as you go about your day, here's something to maybe mull over. Consider how truly embracing the unique way individuals with ADHD are wired, seeing not just the difficulties, but also those distinct strengths, like maybe incredible creativity or that intense, passionate focus or that boundless energy, how that shift in perspective could not only lead to amazing individual success, but also enrich our communities, our workplaces, our whole society in really surprising and valuable ways. Keep exploring, keep learning. Thanks so much for joining us on The Deep Dive.